Welcome to the Iconic Conversation series, our August conversation on confidence resiliency with Kathryn Maggs. I want to start by acknowledging the First Nations people of the lands across the whole of Australia and acknowledge their enduring connection to country, knowledge and stories, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I am Adina Jacobs, and together with my partner, Bobby Marlab, we started Mentor Walks almost 6 years ago with the intention of bringing quality mentoring experiences to women everywhere to drive a gender equal world. And one way that you can make a difference to your world is to do one thing, big or small, for another woman after your experience here today. It could be something little like checking in on someone that you thought looked a little bit unwell or a bit out of sorts, to see if they're okay. Or it could be something really big like calling out an injustice if you see it playing out in front of you. Whatever it is, please just take a couple of minutes after this to have a thought about what you can do, one thing, big or small, for another woman after this event today. The very first Mentor Walks conversation series started 2 years ago when some of our mentors came to us asking what they could do to support the women in our community in the face of this global pandemic that was unfolding in front of us. The first conversation was led by our mentor, Lindley Edwards, and it was on a topic that was front of mind at the time, which was fear of losing your job. Since then, our mentors have continued to give their time and share their expertise and experience around areas of concern and interest for our community. And today, I'm so proud to say that this is our 23rd conversation series event. All previous sessions are up on our Mentor Walks YouTube page. We get a lot of people watching them after the event, so please feel free to go and have a look there after this. This one will be up tomorrow. The most recent ones we've done are Networking with the Difference with Claire Wivel-Plater, Getting Game Ready to Make Career Moves with Susie McInerney, How to Unstuck Yourself with the Power of Play and Improv with Julie Trell, and there are 20 other ones for you to have a look at as well. Now, it's our partnership with the Iconic that allows us to bring these monthly free to attend events to you. So I want to take this opportunity to thank CEO of the Iconic, Erica Birchtold, and her team for supporting us and our community. Today's conversation is on confidence resiliency. What is it and how can it help me lead? Kathryn Maggs is here to lead us through the conversation. Kathryn is a leadership expert specializing in conscious leadership, confidence resilience, and transformational change, in particular for senior professional female leaders, and she works with them and their teams to explore their full potential. Kathryn has more than 20 years experience working with individuals, leaders and their teams as a mentor, coach, and corporate facilitator. She prides herself on obtaining results through tailoring an approach to the individuals, leaders, and teams that she works with. It's not a one size fits all. It really depends on who she's working with and what they're trying to achieve. Today, Kathryn will be guiding us through a personalised confidence journey so that we begin to act, lead and succeed with confidence. We'll discover the 4 key sources of confidence, considering the pros and cons of each to identify which sources we're currently relying on most for our self-assurance. And then she'll take us through exploration of the concept of confidence resiliency. We'll be leaving this session equipped with actionable strategies to build and bolster our confidence and to help us bounce back from adversity. So Kathryn, before I pass over to you, I'll just quickly explain how this whole thing works. Kathryn will be talking for 30 to 40 minutes. There will be a couple of polls that pop up through the conversation. So please take a second to participate. It really gives us a fantastic snapshot on where you're at and what your thoughts are at the time. Kathryn's covering a lot and she's likely to answer a lot of the questions that come up through her content. So please hang on to your questions until the end. There will be time to drop them into the chat and then we'll address as many of them as we can at the end. And also before we kick off, I just ask you to please make sure that your full name is displayed on screen. It helps us work out who's actually here with us today. Okay, Kathryn, over to you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Adina, and Mentor Walks and Iconic for giving me this opportunity to be here with you. A fabulous introduction, so thank you. And welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight and welcome to the discussion that we're going to have around confidence resiliency. I'm really excited about this evening. Now, there are 3 key topics that I'm going to cover, or concepts that I'm going to cover tonight. We're going to talk about, as Adina mentioned, the sources of confidence. I'm then going to explore the circle of confidence with you. And lastly, probably the thing that you're most excited about is walking away with understanding more clearly what it is that you need in your toolbox to build confidence resiliency. So I'm just going to share my slides. I promise you it won't be. You do actually, I have prepared a workbook for you that Sophie will put in the chats for you to access. If you don't want to use the workbook, that's okay, but hopefully you've got a journal or some pen and paper next to you. Okay. So you will have a similar diagram to this in your workbook on page 2. And page 2 is, well, includes, so page 1, sorry, is the title page. So that will, page 2 is the one after the title page. So sources of confidence. What are they? Where do they come from? As you can see from the slide in front of you, there are 4 key areas. There are sources from and with, and there are sources within and to. And I want to dive into those a little bit more and explain what those exactly are to you, so you can understand where you're currently sourcing your confidence from. We're not actually taught, and more often than not, we're just conditioned to source our confidence from external sources. And they're the ones we're going to look at first. So, when you're sourcing your confidence from, you're sourcing it from recognition from others. Others appreciating the value that you bring and expressing their appreciation to you. Sometimes you get confidence from a position, a title, and the power that comes with that. You may source confidence from status or wealth. And none of these are good or bad. It is just a source of confidence. You may also source your confidence with, and this is when you're sourcing your confidence with like-minded people. They are people that, whether they're your tribe, but they believe the things you believe. So if you go to speak up in a meeting, knowing that your colleagues support that idea, you're going to have a lot more confidence in expressing that thought and that idea than if no one supports you. So that's another external source of confidence. Confidence from and confidence with. And more often than not, this is probably where the majority of us source most of our confidence from, are those external sources. And I have no doubt that you've experienced it. When that external source is no longer there, what happens to your confidence? It just takes a huge deep dive. And sometimes it can take a while to pull ourselves back up to where we were before that event happened. It may be that you moved into a new role and you now have a leader that doesn't give you any recognition for a job well done. Now, for me, that's important. Words of affirmation are really important to me. And that's where awareness is key, which I'll talk more about. So confidence within. This is where, obviously, we start to go internally to source our confidence. Now, confidence within is all about understanding our self-worth. What is the value that we bring? It's also about understanding our self-knowledge. And our self-knowledge is grounded in understanding what are our values and are we surrounding ourselves with opportunities to live those values? What are our strengths? And are we playing to them? Are we utilising them enough? Or do we need to change direction and pivot so that we can utilise our core strengths more effectively and more often? And also understanding our beliefs. Now, this is our self-limiting beliefs as well as the beliefs that serve us well. We need to understand all of this to truly develop an internal sense of source of confidence. And then we have confidence too. So confidence too, when you have that deeper understanding, that deeper awareness of who you are, the value that you're bringing to whatever the interaction is and why you're there, most importantly, why you're there, then you begin to have the confidence to shape your destiny. I'm sure you've heard live a life by design, not default. Well, unfortunately, most of us are living a life by default. We're relying on the experiences or expectations, I should say, of others to help us navigate what we think a successful life looks like. And when you can start to shape your own destiny, you do this through having a real clear understanding of your purpose. Now, I'm not talking about a huge, big altruistic purpose. I'm talking about understanding what success looks like to you, not to anyone else, not to your parents, not to your colleagues. What does success truly look like to you? What does a successful life mean to you based on your values, based on your strengths, based on the things that bring you joy? How many of us did that uni degree or went to uni because our parents expected us to, and then did that degree because our parents wanted us to? How many people buy a house because that's what we do? How many people get married, have children because that's what's expected? That's just how life is. That's living a life by default. That's living a life to other people's expectations based on what those people think success looks like. It's not until we go within and we start to understand who we are that we understand what success looks like, and therefore purpose. We have a goal, a personal goal that we're achieving. And when we don't have a goal that we're working towards, we simply fill our days full of mundane tasks. And again, that's living a life by default. So we shape our destiny through having that clear purpose, through taking time to self-care, which I align really closely with joy, because I find the things that bring me joy fill me up. They fill my cup up. And that's the point of self-care, right? Whether it's eating well, whether it's exercising, reading a book, spending a night with friends, it's an opportunity to relax and recharge. It's also about choosing growth over comfort, and it's about those conscious decisions. Because again, when you understand what you want and why you want it, you make more conscious decisions. You consciously choose to do specific things to work towards that purpose that you've identified. Just going to stop sharing now. So they are the different sources of confidence. What I want you to do now is page 3, it'll have a title in your workbook of Remember a Time When. I want you to think of a time when you have felt low as low. You had no confidence. It had just disappeared for whatever reason, and you were feeling really low, and I guess a sense of low self-belief and self-worth as well. So I want you to try and remember a time when you felt like that. Now, once you've got that memory, I just want you, just a couple of words, just write down a couple of words that's going to help you remember that memory. Now, what I would like you to do is close your eyes, and I want you to bring that memory right to the forefront of your mind, right towards your forehead where your frontal cortex is. Bring it all the way back. And I want you to start to remember the details of that moment. Where were you? Were you in a building? What colour were the walls? What was in the room? Were you outside? Bring back the details of that memory where you felt low in confidence. Who was with you? Were you with people? Who were they? Can you bring their faces into your memory? Can you visualize those people? Perhaps you can remember what you were wearing, what they were wearing. Start to bring back as much detail about that memory as you can. What were you doing at the time? What happened? And how did you feel? What were the feelings that you were feeling at that time and the different emotions? It may have been more than one feeling. How did it make you feel? Name them in your head. Name off those feelings and feel it. Feel those feelings right now. Feel as if this memory is happening right now. And I just want you to sit in that and sit there. And when you feel that you've encompassed that memory and you're living in that memory, I want you to just dot points, just jot down all those things that I mentioned. Where are you? Who are you with? What happened? And most importantly, write down what you're feeling. I'll just give you a minute to do that. Just dot points. Okay. Now, we're going to bring up a poll, and based on how you are feeling right now, for those that did that exercise, how you're feeling right now, I want you to rate from 1 to 7 how much confidence you feel you have. And a 7 being, I can take over the world. I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the entire world. And 1 being, I can't even crawl myself out of a hole. So 1 to 7, when the poll comes up, I want you to rate yourself. I want to crawl into a hole. That's how much confidence you're feeling at the moment. Versus, I can take on the world. Okay. So everyone had a chance to answer? And just share the results. Okay, so quite a lot, about 40% sitting somewhere in the middle. And then we've got another 28, 32 below. So somewhere from crawling into a hole to about to crawl into the hole. And then we have 22, 29% that are feeling quite confident this evening. Fabulous. Amazing. Okay. So that was just a little exercise I wanted to do, and we'll come back to that. We'll come back to those results in a little bit of time. But what's really important for you is to remember that awareness builds resiliency. I'm just going to share my screen again. So the more you are aware of what it is that truly matters and is important to you and how you can achieve that, the more your resiliency increases. And confidence resiliency is that ability to bounce back, because confidence is never going to stay up here constantly. We're always going to ebb and flow. It's like a roller coaster. But when we're only relying on external sources of confidence, what happens when they disappear. Our confidence disappears until we can find another external source to help build us back up. But if you start building confidence from within, then you've got the ability to bounce back so much quicker, because guess what? You might now have a boss that doesn't give you recognition, and that's important to you. You know it's important to you. But you also know that you took this new job, not for the recognition from the boss. You took this new job because it was an important part in working towards gaining your success, your definition of success, towards your purpose, towards your goal. So when you're not getting recognition from your boss, you can go, okay, I'm okay with that because I did this. I made a very conscious decision to take this role for these reasons. And I'm going to go over here and get my confidence from over here today. So it just gives you that ability to bounce back a lot quicker when you go within and understand why you're doing things and where you're sourcing that confidence from. So awareness builds confidence. Awareness builds resiliency. Circle of confidence. Okay, we've all been in situations where we feel super confident. And to be honest, most of us probably feel like that most of the time until we are forced out of our circle of confidence. And when we're forced out of our circle of confidence, we're forced into the circle of terror. Now, it's terrifying when we're out of our comfort zone, when we're out of our circle of confidence, because it's a space we're not familiar with. But we're forced out of it. There are many events in our life where we are forced out of our circle of confidence. And that might be when we are finishing high school and we now are either going to full-time work or we're going to university. We are forced out of that circle of confidence into the circle of terror until we start to navigate that new world and we build up new levels of confidence and we become familiar. And then that circle of confidence surrounds us again. It happens when we are in a new role. It happens when maybe our parents kick us out of home and we have to fend for ourselves. It happens when we have children. It happens when we bring somebody else into our world. There are many moments along our life journey where we are forced out of our circle of confidence. Very rarely do we actually purposefully push ourselves out of that circle of confidence because it is scary. But that is where it is in that moment of stepping outside your area, your circle of confidence, that growth happens. Now, there's so much that pulls you back. You say yes, you make a decision, you go, yes, I want to do that, but maybe I won't. I want to apply for that role, but maybe I won't because I might not get it, or I don't have all the criteria. And so you're on that precipice. You've got one foot in your circle of confidence and one circle in the circle of terror, and you know what's pulling you back. It's all your self-limiting beliefs. You have a self-image of who you believe you are. Your self-image is dictated by all of the habitual beliefs that you have stored here in your subconscious mind about what you're capable of, what skill set you have, how intelligent you believe you are, what you're worth from a money value point of view, how much you will ever earn. Your self-image even determines your perception of things as well as your perception of yourself. And in fact, that's all imposter syndrome is. It's an internal conflict with your self-image. You've found yourself in a place that doesn't match or align your internal self-image. So therefore, you feel like you're a fraud. So your self-limiting beliefs draw you back into this circle of confidence, which is why it is so important to understand what those beliefs are. You might remember from the sources of confidence, underlying in that sources with, you know, the sourcing confidence from within is actually understanding what those beliefs are so you can challenge them. Because our subconscious mind believes whatever it's told. So the more you tell yourself you're not worthy, or the more you tell yourself you're not capable of doing something, the more you're going to believe it. So you've got to become aware of what those voices are so you can rewire them. So you could almost say that our circle of confidence that we think we're safe and comfy in is really a circle of our self-limiting beliefs. So if we want to actually be more, become more, we need to push past that circle of self-limiting beliefs and choose growth, but choose it consciously, because when you understand what it is you truly want and what you're working towards and what that goal is and how you're adding value to it, you can do that with confidence. You can step out of that circle into growth with so much more confidence because you're clear on exactly why you're doing the things that you are doing. Just going to stop sharing again, and we're going to do another visualization. So page 6, I want you to remember a time when. So this time I want you to remember a time when you felt incredibly confident. You knew what you were doing, you knew why you were there, and you were absolutely having a ball. Think of a time, and look, you may have to go way, 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 way back. You may not. You may only have to go back last week or yesterday. But just take a moment and think of a time where you felt super confident. There will be a time in your life. It doesn't have to be work related. And when you have that memory, just write it down in that space. Just a few words to help you remember exactly what it was. And then I'm going to ask you to close your eyes again. And I want you to bring that memory out to your forefront of your mind, right up to your frontal cortex. And I'm going to ask you the same questions. Where were you? Were you outside in a park? What park was it? Can you remember what was around you? Were you inside? Were you in a room? What was around you? Start to see the objects that were surrounding you in that moment. Who were you with? Can you remember their faces? Bring them into your memory. Bring them to the front of your mind. Can you remember what you were wearing? Can you remember what they were wearing? Start to paint that memory as vividly as you can. What were you all doing? Why were you there? What were you doing? And how did you feel? What were the emotions you were feeling at that time? Name them in your head. Feel them. Really feel them in your body. Feel like this is happening right now. Embody it. Embody the whole memory as if it's happening right now. Feel those feelings. Stay in the present. Feel those feelings. Visualize those faces. Now in your workbook, just jot down again just a few things to help you remember what it was, what you were doing. But more importantly, write down what you were feeling. And then we're going to bring up the poll again. And based on how you feel in this very moment right now, I want you to once again score yourself from 1 to 7, how confident you're feeling. 1 being, I'm crawling into a hole, and 7 being, I feel like I can take on the world. Based on how you're feeling right now. Everyone had a chance to answer the poll. Okay, close it off, share results. Look at that. Amazing. Like a massive jump. Our last poll, same question, we had 40% sitting at somewhere in the middle, and another, I think it was just over 30% below that. And now we've only got 11% sitting at somewhere in the middle, and we've got over 60% sitting in the, they want to, well, actually even more if I include the 17. So look at that, we've got well over 70% ready to, or almost about to, take over the world. So that is the first tool you can put in your toolbox. Our subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a memory and reality. So when you are feeling low in confidence, you can go within, you can remember a time that you have felt super confident and just visualize it and embody that feeling, that memory inside of you. And then you can stand up tall, ready to take the day on. It's your first tool to pop in to your toolbox, visualization. And you don't even have to think of a memory anymore. You've written one down. And you can use it over and over again. So I'm just going to share my screen again. So leading with confidence originates from authenticity. You have to know who you are. What are your strengths? Not your learned strengths, because they drain us of energy and often we don't enjoy them. But your realized and unrealized strengths, because it's those strengths that fill you with energy. You love doing them and you're on a high when you're doing it. They're the ones you want to truly understand and optimize. What are your values? And are you in an environment where those values align? And start working on your beliefs. They're easy to pick because we can hear that little voice all the time. We can observe ourselves making a decision and then changing our mind. And in fact, we're the only animal on the planet that can do that. That can actually observe what we're thinking and our behaviors and challenge them. So let's start doing that a little bit more often, because that will lead to true confidence resiliency. So that moves us into the final topic around the toolkit. What can we put in the toolkit? Now I'm going to touch on a few things we've already discussed tonight. What are your external sources of confidence? So based on what we discussed, Do you have more clarity and a better understanding of which external sources you rely on more than others? Is it recognition? Is it appreciation? Is it power or authority or status or wealth? Or is it confidence from with, being surrounded by like-minded people? Which one, two, three do you rely on the most? And jot those down, because when you can begin to understand it, whenever you're feeling a little bit low in confidence, you can go, well, hang on a minute, what's just happened recently? Is there an external source of confidence here I'm relying on that's making me feel this way? So jot those down. Which ones do you think you rely on the most? Now you understand the importance of internal sources of confidence and what they are. So is there some places to work here for you? Do you have a clear purpose, a clear goal? Do you understand what success looks like for you? A successful life looks like for you, not for your mum and dad, not for your brothers and sisters, not for your colleagues at work or your boss, not for your friends. What does a successful life look like for you? And how do you want to move forward to achieve that? Are you clear on what your beliefs are? Not all our beliefs are limiting. Some of them are really good. So start to delve and understand more so you can decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to throw out. Are you really clear on what your strengths are? And how can you utilize them more? Because they will align with the success that you choose. Similarly, your values. And importantly, do you know what brings you joy? If not, it's time to start being curious and exploring and making time for joy, because joy fills your cup. Another tool to pop in your kit, another strategy, is intention. A life by design, right? Take conscious action. Now that you've got, and when I say now that you've got, after you've taken some time to get really clear on what it is you want and what's important to you, begin to take conscious action towards that. The visualizations. When you're feeling low in confidence, make a conscious choice, act with intention, and do your visualization to give you that little boost that you need. Work towards mastery. When you better understand what your strengths are, you can invest in yourself and work towards mastery. I want to be known for this. When someone needs this, I want them to think of me. Focus in and leverage your unrealized and your realized strengths. Do things that make you feel good. When we do things that make us feel good, we naturally feel more confident. And even better, teach somebody else something that you're really good at. Because when we're teaching someone, we realize how much we actually know. And that makes us feel more confident as well. Language matters. Now, this comes quite interrelated with beliefs, right? Start to observe your languages, your verbal. Things like, I'm no expert, but. Well, maybe you are. Oh, no, that was nothing. Yes, it was something. So accept that, own it. Does that make sense? If you're asking someone if it makes sense, that means you don't think you're making sense and that you're not sensible. If only I can't do. This might sound silly. All these words are a reflection of what you truly believe about you. So be very observant of your language and start to slowly change it. If someone thanks you or gives you a compliment, accept it. Don't deflect it. Say thank you graciously and gratefully. I know it's hard at the start, but will make a big difference. Your internal language, your beliefs. Your mind never stops. It's constantly talking to you. So start to listen to what it's saying, because your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings create your behavior. So start listening and start identifying which ones you really don't like and don't want to listen to anymore. Body language is a big one. When you walk into a meeting room where you want to be heard but never feel that you are, what are you telling people with your body language? Are you walking into the middle of the room, sitting at the desk where everyone can see you, shoulders back, sitting up straight, everything spread out in front of you, ready to listen and speak? Or are you finding the chair as far away as possible, actually maybe closest to the door so you can escape as soon as the meeting's over? Are you making yourself as small as possible by slouching and crossing? And is everything tidily popped in front of you? Your body language will send a clear message to people. If you are trying to make yourself small, people will notice that and they won't ask you for your opinion. So body language is important as well. Purposeful networking. Who's your board of directors, right? No one succeeds alone. Anyone who has created success in their life actually are supported by amazing people. And they're people they go to help build their confidence. Yes, it's an external source, but it's purposeful. So what type of board of directors do you need? You need gurus. And who are your gurus? They're people that inspire you, that you want to learn from. They're mentors, they're teachers, they're people you respect and you want to emulate in some way. Advocates, who are your advocates? They're your cheerleaders, they're your sponsors, they challenge you and they help you be curious. Your straight shooters, they're the ones that are going to call you on your BS. They're your truth sayers and they hold you accountable. And your restorers, they're the ones that care most about you. They keep you grounded, they make you feel connected, they're there for comfort. So depending where you are and what you're feeling, if you are acting with intent and making conscious decisions and being aware of how you're feeling, whether you're confident, you're not confident, you know exactly who you need to call. You might call a carer when you've had a bad day and you're not feeling so good about yourself. You might call a straight shooter because you know what you did was to get you towards your purpose, but it didn't work out the way you want, and you want them to give you a kick up the butt. So start to understand and be purposeful about who you're surrounding yourself with, because they matter and they can actually help you with your confidence resiliency. And investing in yourself. So understanding your purpose and your values and your strengths, this isn't a one-off exercise, because the more you increase your awareness and then you apply that and you experience it, the more you grow, you become comfortable in your circle of confidence again, you need to push yourself again. So you need to reflect. You need to increase your level of awareness even further. You need to continue to choose growth. And you walk through with conscious leadership, because you are consciously choosing for the right reasons. And this applies to your teams as well, because what team doesn't need a clear purpose? What team shouldn't be or should be playing to its strengths? What are the beliefs that sit within your team? The values. And how do you bring joy into your leadership? You do it through building your confidence resiliency and going within. So you now have a better understanding of the different sources of confidence. Neither are good or bad. They just are. The importance is understanding where you source yours and where you may need to build new sources of confidence. You'll also understand why we're actually holding ourselves back and keeping ourselves small in our little current circle of confidence. And that relates a lot to our self-limiting beliefs. And lastly, you now have a toolkit of strategies to help you build that confidence resiliency. And I know there was a lot in that toolkit, but a lot of it is also integrated and aligned. So thank you. Thank you for your time and your attention this evening. I do hope that you have taken some little nuggets of gold away with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. That was really wonderful. There are so many things in there. I was furiously writing down. And I think, one of the really big things that has come up in the last few, and actually really every one of the conversation series that we've done, is that it's so important to actually spend the time. Like, experts like you can give us the tools, can point us in the right direction, but everybody deserves the opportunity to pull themselves out of their day-to-day, give themselves some quiet space, and really spend the time identifying and understanding themselves, because that's the work that needs to be put in to actually make it work and to build your confidence. Exactly. And a couple of the things that I jotted down were live a life of design, not default. I've never heard that before.
Oh, really?
No, I often find myself just going by default, and I have done a lot of work on myself, and so it's really good to have that background to be able to then step back up and remind myself not to live a life of default. So that's wonderful. Thank you. And the other thing that I see so often in like a lot of the areas that I work in is the limiting language and the limiting self-belief. People use the words just and sorry and does that make sense, and all of that diminishes yourself before anybody else has an opinion of you. So
exactly,
identifying that is really, really core. If anybody has any questions now, please pop them into the chat. I've got a couple that we've already collected, and so I'm going to kick off now with this first one. Is personal values and our personal strengths come up over and over again, and it's so important to be able to identify them. But I think most people don't know where to start. Yeah. Can you point us to some resources or give us some ideas on where do you actually start doing that work? How do you identify your values? How do you identify your strengths?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And there's a number of different ways you can do it. There are online surveys that you can complete. So the ones that I use most regularly are the VIA Character Strengths Survey, and that one is more aligned to your values and your virtues. Okay. And that one is free. Okay. And then there is the Clifton's Strength Finder.
Yeah.
That one you pay for, but that one is more around the strengths that are very characteristic to you and how you actually add value when you're interacting with others or leading others. Yeah. And then there's another one, the name has escaped me for the moment, but I'm happy to share it with you after if it doesn't come to me. But you may have heard me talking about realised, unrealised strengths. There is another one you can do that helps you identify those that are realised, unrealised, because they're the key ones that you really want to fill your days with as much as you can, because they actually build you with, they're intrinsic in you and they fill you with energy.
I love what you said about how learned strengths drain us of energy, and they're typically the ones that we don't enjoy. I think people probably would identify a lot of learned strengths as their strengths. Yeah. Spend so much time learning them.
Exactly. Really exactly.
The truth of it.
And they're not the strengths we want to be known for, because they're the only roles we end up being given opportunities to go into. So that's when I said, what do you want to be known for? It's going to sit in those realised strengths, and they're the ones you want to start promoting and being known for and master.
Absolutely. So that leads us on to the question of purpose. And I know, I spend a lot of time trying to figure out purpose, and I do think it's an ongoing thing. You don't just figure out your purpose and then you're set for the rest of your life.
No.
But it's the question that a lot of people come to us asking, like, how do I identify my purpose? How do I start working towards it? Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, and look, I know it's not easy, and you make a really great point. Your purpose changes. It changes depending where you are in your life and what your life stage is. When you're a mother, you've got a very clear purpose, which is very different to when pre-children or when they've grown up and left the nest. So one of the areas you can start with getting more clear on what your purpose is and what's important to you and what success looks like. There's an activity called the rocking chair. So it's a visualization, and it's not something, as you said before, Adina, it takes time. You've got to put the work in. So it's a visualization where you visualize you're in your 80s, you're in a rocking chair on your back deck, and you're reflecting on your life, a life with no regret. What did you achieve? Who are you surrounded by? What are the things you've done? What are people saying about you? There's a very similar exercise that Stephen Covey in his book asks you to do, which is a little bit, some people don't find it difficult, but it's you're walking into a funeral and you're walking down the aisle and you get to the casket and you look in and you realize it's you. And then you sit down and you listen to what all the people are saying about you, your colleagues, your family. So this helps you really start to, I guess, take away some of the fog of what you think success looks like based on what everybody else expects of you, and start to get a bit clear on what's really important to you. And it may not happen the first time. You may need to do this exercise a couple of times over a series of weeks, and just journal. Journaling is so important. I know a lot of people don't like it or struggle with it, but writing gives clarity. We've got a million thoughts going on in our head at any moment in time. And when you stop and start writing, those thoughts slow down and you start to gain far more clarity. So after the visualization, start writing. And the more you can reflect and write, the clearer you'll get as to what's important to you. So what is your purpose? My purpose is to, you could even call it your legacy. It's very similar to leadership legacy.
Yeah, okay.
This is who I am and what I want to be remembered for. That's my purpose. That's what I was put here for.
Thank you. I mean, I know the way that I identified my values and started identifying what my purpose was and what I wanted to work towards was by a very intensive 3-day one-on-one workshop. So you really do have to put the effort in and find the people who resonate with you and who are saying the things that will be able to get that information, get you to actually focus on finding it.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah. I mean, another question that we've had come up here is, how do you manage that inner voice that feeds your limiting self-belief?
A whole nother conversation. Your limiting beliefs were created via repetition. Okay. Now, unfortunately, when we're born, our frontal cortex, our conscious mind, is not developed. It doesn't start developing until around the ages of 6 or 7, and then it's not fully formed until our mid-20s. So in those very early years, it's just our subconscious mind. And like I proved to you tonight, subconscious mind does not challenge anything. It will believe whatever it's told. So you've got all of these beliefs that were created through repetition in your early years and probably reinforced, and potentially new beliefs created. You do continue to create new beliefs based on experiences. And they can either through repetition, or it's through a really unfortunate traumatic event, which usually isn't a happy one. Sometimes it can be. So, you hear stories about people that have had a near-death experience and then they've completely changed their whole life.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by this sudden impact traumatic event will help change beliefs. The only other way is through repetition. And you should never work on more than 2 at a time, because it'll just be too overwhelming and you brain won't cope. But it's about changing your neural networks. Yeah. So identify the belief that you don't want anymore. And you have to create a new affirmation that is completely opposite to that. You have to start feeling what it would be like to feel that belief and embody that belief. And then you have to take action. So it's your thoughts, feelings, action. And like I said, that is a whole other conversation around how to change our self-limiting beliefs. But it's important to identify them first and pick the one that you want to knock over first.
Amazing. Thank you. We do have a few other questions as well, but we're out of time for them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's really look, you didn't run over. You were perfect with time. I just think it's a topic that's really close to people.
Yeah.
We do a follow-up email. I think it's going to come through either tonight or tomorrow morning. And so we'll include the tips that you've given us towards the end here. If there's anything you want to add to it, Kathryn, let us know if you know, and we'll put it in there.
Sure.
We're going to drop a survey into the chat now. So if everybody could please take a couple of minutes just to respond to the survey. It really helps us when we're delivering these and making sure that they're information and content that is of interest to you. I mean, I really think that this is absolutely top of mind, and there's a lot that you've given people here that they can go away and work on, which is pretty amazing. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure.
Then just a couple of housekeeping things from us. We are launching in Singapore next week. So if you know anyone in Singapore, I know it's our second international location. We launched in Christchurch a few months ago and now Singapore. So if you know anyone in Singapore, there are still a few tickets available. They're available through our website. We've also got a Perth in-person walk at the end of next week. So if anyone is here from that side of the country, please come along. And our next conversation series is with Amanda Gome on the 14th of September. It's on everyday sexism, also booked through our website. So Kathryn, again, thank you so much for being here with us. You're an incredibly valued mentor in Brisbane, and we're really grateful that you were able to do this and share your knowledge and information with everyone tonight.
Oh, I'm very humbled to be here.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Take care.